Hi. Nope. Hi, I'm Dars, and I just finished... You know that feeling when you're working on something and it just doesn't feel good? Like it's just not good, but you know the idea itself is good. The idea itself has merit and there's value in it. But your first draft, your execution of it just isn't good. You feel like everything is trash and you just want to give up. This video is sort of about that idea, but also not. This video is about what I'm calling incremental revisions. It's something that I recently did for the first time, and I don't think that I'm the first person to ever do it. I just looked it up and couldn't find anything on it, but I feel like there's merit in it, and I just felt like I should talk about it. So I just finished writing the first season of a web series that I'm working on. And as I was writing it, I hit a point where I wasn't feeling good. Things just weren't going the way I felt like it should. I decided to just restart. So I went back to a blank page and then started writing again from the beginning. Immediately, writing this was a lot easier. And by the time I got to where I wasn't feeling good before, I was feeling so much better and I knew how to keep going. I knew the characters better at this point, and I knew the story better, and I knew a little bit more about where I wanted to go, so I was able to set things up better. I got several pages further, and then I wasn't feeling good again, and I didn't like where it was going. So I stopped and I restarted again.
I think a lot of writers are very precious with their work and don't want to actually write things. They'd rather talk about something for way more time than it would take them to just write it. And they put so much on the actual writing of the thing that it's too elevated, it's too revered, you know?
For a long time, I tried to think out everything in the story. However, now I've realized that it doesn't do me much good to think too much past the middle. By the time you get to the middle, when you've actually been writing it, it's a different story now. It's a different thing now. Now you are the characters. You know the characters. Things that you could never have known before you started writing.
When you get into the actual act of creating, no matter how much you plan, things are going to change. When you get into it, you're going to understand the characters better. You're going to have a better understanding of how things are actually working and how things come alive in the story. One of the problems that a lot of people face, myself included, is just not starting. There's a fear of wanting to make something so good, so you put so much time in planning and you don't actually get into it because it's held at such a high level. Knowing that I'm only going to do the first 10 pages before restarting and revising makes it easier to start because it doesn't hold it at so much weight. So one of the things I wanted to try with incremental revisioning is to see if it would apply to making a video. So I started this video without an outline or writing. I just had the broad idea that I wanted to talk about. And so what I did was that I just set up a camera and started shooting. When I was editing that first round of footage I shot, I quickly realized all of it sucked. But it helped me construct my ideas and formulate it better and explore the concepts more. However, I still hit a point where I started to doubt whether this was right.
I spend the first big chunk of time just working in little notebooks, and all I do is I draw arcs and split them out into sequences. I need to basically be able to see the whole plot in my head before I can sit down and actually start writing, or I'll get lost in the weeds. But then you actually get into it, and as you guys who are writers, you know, you get into it, and no matter how much you plan, and you figure out stuff doesn't work, and you figure out new paths, and so yeah, it's kind of a mixture.
I think you don't necessarily need to go all into one or the other. In this case, I went all in. I didn't write, I didn't outline. I just started shooting and then said, I'll figure it out as I go. And I think in this case it was helpful because it made that first step into actual forward motion start. And I do actually think that it helped for me to start. But I'm not currently liking where everything is at right now, so I think it's time for us to outline. Right now, we're a little past the middle. I'm going to put the midpoint. I think I'm currently right there. Let's say that this was the intro. And the section where we're crossing the threshold is when I'm talking about when I was writing the web series. And then we have this section here. I start showing the Seth Rogan and Quinten Tarantino clips. And I think the midway point is when I start transitioning over to being about making this video. But currently it doesn't feel like it's working towards anything. And then here's where I get guidance from Rian Johnson. And then this section is where I'm currently outlining. There's going to have to be the main conflict here, but I need something else to show how I'm making this video. So I just had this idea of doing like a bit of a commentary of making this video. I don't know if this is a good idea or the right way to do it. I'm shaking it a lot, so that probably doesn't help much. I don't know. So I'm actually going to go back to the beginning and I'm going to do a quick commentary throughout the whole thing as I go on. Hi, I'm Doris, and I just finished. So those two are the first 2 rounds of shooting that I did. The first one is the only shot from that first round because I didn't like anything that I used. And I felt like that feeling that I had was the point because immediately shooting again sort of helped me get past that. But I still didn't feel great about it. And by the time I got to where I wasn't... I'm actually starting to realize now that this video is an exploration of the concept of finding ways to avoid that pit of doom that comes with every project. When this video started, I thought this was about incremental revisions, but the more I go through this project, it's actually about avoiding that despair that comes from every project. So incremental revisions' goal was to help avoid the despair of the changes by embracing the changes. It sort of helps give you resilience to push through the despair. And outlining and planning helps you create the best possible first draft to reduce the despair that you feel. So ultimately it comes down to this. Do whatever you can do to give yourself the optimism you need to keep going through and finish the project. But also keep in mind that the despair you feel only happens when you're reaching beyond your comfort zone. It only happens when you're pushing yourself and growing as an artist. So, welcome to despair and keep creating.